Hello everyone and welcome back to the Blackfoot Book Club and another volume of my essential film reviews collection. And I bring you Good Night and Good Luck, directed by George Clooney from 2005. He's a Jew. Oh, well, don't tell him that. He loves Christmas. Fred Friendly, George Clooney. This is another quiet, in the background role for Clooney as Fred Friendly, a CBS News producer and close confidant of Edward R Murrow. Both a stylish and understated performance from actor Clooney, as well as a stylish film for which he as director was nominated for an Oscar, quite an achievement in only his second directorial film. Clooney was also nominated alongside fellow screenplay writer Grant Heslov for an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, with the film as a whole receiving a total of 6 Oscar nominations, again quite an astounding achievement in only his second film as director. Another George Clooney film that became an instant favourite with me. The film was bookended with a speech made by Edward R Murrow, an incredible performance from David Strathairn at a Gala Evening in his honour in 1958. A salute to his incredible achievements in television broadcasting, and one in which he makes this telling pronouncement. We are currently wealthy, fat, comfortable and complacent. We have an inbuilt allergy to unpleasant or disturbing information. Our mass media reflect this. But unless we get up off our fat surpluses and recognise that television in the main is being used to distract, delude, amuse and insulate us, then television and those who finance it, those who look at it and those who work at it may see a totally different picture too late. From this early speech in 1958, the film reverts back to 1953, and the main premise for the film is set. In the midst of the Cold War against Russia, Republican Senator Joe McCarthy is trying to root out card-carrying communists from the United States of America. A media war is brewing, and Edward R Murrow, together with Fred Friendly and his CBS News team, uncover shockingly one-sided attacks on American citizens, whereby they are accused of being a communist without a fair trial or evidence. From 1953 onward, the film continues with a straightforward timeline until it loops back to bookend the film with a continuation of Murrow's gala speech. Filmed in colour but reverted back to black and white to reflect the time period, the opening speech itself, albeit brief, encapsulates everything that is impressive about this film. The direction from Clooney, the cinematography from Robert Elswit, a stellar cast of quiet yet mightily impressive performances and numerous themes of the time. Firstly, Clooney. His second film, but far different from Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, as this film has a quiet, purposeful and perhaps stoic air about proceedings. His slow, flowing camera work is again evident, as is the merging and dissolving of scenes into one another, often with a continuing narration or conversation from the previous scene, which really propels an already intriguing and engrossing story. Also reflective of the time and filmmaking of the time, many scenes fade to black or are segued by an important date, but whereas Confessions of a Dangerous Mind was frenetically edited, here, as with the film as a whole, it is now quiet, with a gentle flow from one scene to another. This is in no way a criticism of returning editor Stephen Mirione, more an appreciation of the film's style and quiet purpose. Of the 6 Oscar nominations received, 2 were for technical excellence in Best Art Direction, James Bissell and Jan Pascale, and Best Cinematography for the continuing genius of Robert Elswit. Brilliantly reflective of the time period, shadows and the contrast between light and dark are well captured, as are the numerous scenes within the confines of a cramped room or office, and all 3 collaborators noted above were well deserving of their Oscar nominations. One scene in particular encapsulates everything highlighted brilliantly. From a perfectly still performance from David Strathairn as Murrow, hunched over his typewriter, completing his script for the evening segment, the cramped room full of shadow and excellently lit, as the camera, for the first time in the film, rolls away from Murrow as opposed to the almost constant full-frame close-up on him, as has been apparent throughout the film. Murrow, whether on camera with his evening news segment or simply with his editorial team, is seemingly always framed close up, displaying every nuance and touch. Yet this brief but brilliantly captured snapshot of a journalist of the age captures everything perfectly. David Strathairn leads an all-star cast at Edward R Murrow and was fully deserving of the film's 6th Oscar nomination for Best Actor in a Leading Role. Another quiet and purposeful performance full of stillness and resolution as the permanently smoking news broadcaster and journalist. Ably supported by Fred Friendly, George Clooney, as his loyal co-producer and friend in a film so heavily dominated by male leads and characters, Patricia Clarkson as Shirley Worshiper stands out in a brilliant performance alongside an uncharacteristically quiet, but as you've read, purposely so, performance from Robert Downey Jr. as Joe Worshiper. Jeff Daniels stars as ruthless Sig Mickelson. Screenplay writer Grant Heslov stars as Don Hewitt, and there are 2 stunning cameos from Ray Wise as Don Hollenbeck and Frank Langella as CBS Supremo William Paley. Also notable is Diane Reeves as jazz singer, both for her superlative singing and for the insertion of her and her band's jazz tracks throughout. The music itself is minimal throughout the film, but always memorable, from the instrumental When I Fall in Love over the opening titles to Diane Reeves singing TV is the Thing This Year, You're Driving Me Crazy, I've Got My Eyes on You, and One for My Baby and One for the Road. All of these latter songs are used brilliantly as we tour the TV studios, a joyous bar scene, or a scene accompanying bad news. The film constantly captures periods in time very well, as we follow a busy TV studio and the workings and behind the scenes angst that goes with a live broadcast of the time. Section producers, all smoking heavily in the cramped confines of a control room, cutting and editing the piece being delivered by a cool and purposeful Murrow, with Fred Friendly lying on the floor next to him, giving timings and direction. To CBS executives pacing in corridors, delivering ultimatums. But the real picture captured so brilliantly of the time is of the continual infighting, paranoia, suspicion, and of not wanting to step out of line in a time of the Cold War. This may in fact seem to be of the time, and of wanting to root out communists or anti-Americans, but this film highlights a highly prescient image of today's media. Now owned by just a few major corporations, the mainstream media of today is of little value and seemingly toes a party line on the war of terror, of terrorists being everywhere, ready to strike at any time, and an all-pervading sense of fear always and constantly propagated. The overt chasing of communists has been replaced by a seeming covert chasing of terrorists and anti-government, anti-establishment viewpoints, all propagated by an unquestioning and docile mainstream media. The air of suspicion, intertwined by numerous pieces of stock footage from the real-life events of the day, emerged with paranoia of the CBS editorial staff and their affiliations. As perfectly summarised by Murrow himself, if none of us had read a dangerous book or had a friend who was different, never joined an organisation that advocated change, we'd all be just like the kind of people Joe McCarthy wants. Contrast this with ABC or NBC or the BBC, or the all-pervading News International of today, their continual use of negative, fearful information, and a dwindling faith we all have in their news. Good night and good luck. Murrow's signature sign-off at the end of every broadcast also raises the question of whether news broadcasts should simply report the news as is provided by national syndicates of news providers and or government institutions, or in fact challenge the news they're provided with. Should television, and news in particular, be used as a means of debate and challenging the status quo, or simply a vehicle for providing a sanctioned view of the news and the world, or indeed simply as a form of entertainment, revenue and ratings? Money, sponsorship and ratings are a continual theme too. The film itself also challenges another highly prescient theme of the time and of today, as free speech and violations of that singular right as a human being are being exploited every day, despite our rights afforded to us both as a human being and as part of a national constitution. Above all, this film shines a light both into the past and into a very prescient present and future day, with a documentary feel to it brilliantly helmed by director Clooney, and expertly, though quietly portrayed by a stellar cast of devoted actors. A brilliant film, and well worthy of 93 minutes of your time. And that was Good Night and Good Luck, directed by George Clooney from 2005, and I'll leave you in peace and in solidarity. And I thank you so much for being there, and thank you so much for watching. Please take care out there, everyone. Peace.